All right, so in this video, we're going to go through sample question 70 from the Society of Actuaries ExamP list of sample questions. The question reads, an insurance company sells an auto policy that covers losses incurred by a policyholder subject to a deductible of 100. Losses incurred follow an exponential distribution with the mean being 300. Our job is to calculate the 95th percentile of losses that exceed the deductible. Okay, so first off, it tells us losses follow an exponential distribution with a mean of 300. So I'm going to denote theta value equal to 300. Now, depending on where you might be learning from, some, rather than using theta, will use 1 over lambda to be your expected value. And that's perfectly fine. I just prefer using theta. This just changes the way you write your equation, right? The thing that's going to be important here is the CDF, right? Cumulative of an exponential, which I will write as 1 minus e to the negative x over theta, whereas others might write it as 1 minus e to the x, 1 minus e to the negative x times lambda. Right, so that's just a small difference there, just so you don't get confused on what I'm talking about. We need to calculate the 95th percentile of losses that exceed the deductible. So what would the 95th percentile in general be? Well, that is whatever value causes your CDF of whatever you're looking at to be 95. However, we're not exactly asked to find the CDF. We're asked to find the 95th percentile of losses that exceed the deductible on the condition that we're essentially greater than 100. All right, so that is a conditional probability now. So 0.95 must be equal to the probability of x being less than or equal to some specific x value. We're not sure what that is. That's what we're trying to find out, given that x is greater than 100, right? Where x is the actual loss. And you should be very familiar with the concept of conditional probability at this point. 0.95 should equal the probability of x being between 100 and whatever the 95th percentile is. Let me just think of a variable that, let's call it a. Right, and that's divided by the probability that x is greater than 100. Now, we're going to use the CDF equation in order to solve for this, so let's change this into something a little more useful, where this equation becomes applicable. All right, so we want x less than or equal to some value. So the probability of being in between 100 all the way up to some point A should be simply the probability of x being less than or equal to whatever A is, minus the probability of x being less than or equal to 100. And that's a CDF, over 1 minus the probability that x is less than 100. Or less than or equal to, less than, it shouldn't matter. Just for consistency's sake, right? Okay. So from here, all we do is just start subbing into our equation. The probability that x is less than or equal to some specific a is 1 minus e raised to the negative a over 300 minus, and I'll kind of leave these in parentheses, 1 minus e raised to the negative 100 over 300 over 1 minus e raised to the negative 100 over 300. And that should all be equal to 0.95. Once you have this figured out, this is an algebra question. We got to find what A is. Simple as that. So let's go about doing that. It's like I mentioned in every video, and like I'm going to mention in every video from here on out, I don't typically do these problems beforehand, just because I think it's important for you to actually see me work out what each of these values are. Okay? Like actually see me do the work the way you would on an actual exam. Minus e to the negative 100 okay, and I've got this value, this denominator, to be 0.716, and I'm going to multiply that to the 0.95. And so far I've calculated this, 0.6807 is equal to 1 minus e raised to the negative a over 300 minus, this was, now although I'm writing down the rounded answers, I'm in my calculator when I actually do the computation using the solutions that the calculator gives me, just so I don't end up with a rounding error. 347. Okay. Now what I got to do is add this to both sides, and I get 0.964173 is equal to 1 minus e raised to the negative a over 300. Bringing the 1 and the negative sign over to the other side is 0.0358 is equal to e to the negative a over 300. And I'll take the natural log of both sides. So I have now ln of 0.0358 is equal to negative a over 300. From here, I just multiply the negative 300 to both sides. So just give me a second to actually do that. And what I get is in A, that equals 998.719678, which is approximately 1,000. Answer choice E. All right, so brief overview of the problem. We're given a loss, and it's got a deductible of 100. And the loss follows an exponential distribution. And then it does something a little bit different too. If you're going through these questions in order, it does something different to what the previous few problems might have asked. It asks us to calculate the 95th percentile of the loss, not the payment. Right? Even though it gives us a deductible and talks about, hey, you got an insurance policy, it doesn't ask us to find information about the payment. It's the loss, which is why I'm able to use, some rules with an exponential distribution, and it makes it a conditional probability problem. That's the key to solving this, identifying that, okay, conditional probability with an exponential distribution. I'm able to use this formula in order to solve. right? Otherwise, you could use the PDF, and what that would do is just leave you with a lot of integration to do. I don't feel like doing that. So you would just use the formula for the CDF, and after that, setting this up, it is algebra. It is your 8th grade algebra class through and through. Well, actually, I guess 10th grade because you're doing logarithms. But yeah, you should get my point. Hopefully that made sense. If there are any questions, anything you think I need to clarify, anything you want me to clarify, throw it down in the comments. I will answer it to the best of my abilities. If you want to see more problems worked out like this, I have a playlist, sample questions being worked out. Check it out. It's in the end card. And if this video helped you out, hit the like button, subscribe, because that definitely helps me out. Other than that, good luck.